Chosen one, give me this moment of stillness right now, for what I am about to say will touch the place within you that has remained closed for many years because of weariness and pain. Do not hurry away, simply because life is calling you back to familiar tasks, constant noise, and unresolved concerns. I am not asking you to stop so that I may frighten you, nor do I wish to use urgency to place another burden upon your shoulders. I only want you to understand that there are moments when, if you quiet your heart, even one gentle word can change the direction of an entire journey. Today is such a moment. You do not need to prepare a perfect answer, prove your faith, or demonstrate your strength. You need only to be present, breathe slowly, and allow your heart to rest from having to hold everything together. These words have reached you at the right time, not so that you may believe you were randomly chosen above others, but because there is a part within you that is ready to awaken. For a long time, good and gentle callings have tried to reach you through silence, through a thought that repeatedly returned, and through the feeling that you could no longer continue living in the same way. Yet, you were too busy surviving to listen, too exhausted to pay attention, and too accustomed to placing the needs of others before your own peace. I do not blame you. I know there were days when all you could do was make it through without collapsing. I know you kept many things within yourself because you did not want to become a burden to anyone. This is why today I am gently drawing you away from the noise, not to separate you from life, but to help you return to yourself. You have passed through storms that very few people knew about. There were battles you concealed behind an ordinary smile, and times when you said you were fine, even though your strength was almost gone. Others saw you continuing to work, care for your family, listen, and help. But they did not see the nights when you lay still while your mind moved through hundreds of questions. They did not know how many times you reminded yourself that you had to remain strong, because you believed there was no one else who could carry the weight. You learned how to wipe away your tears quickly, steady your voice, and walk outside as though nothing had happened. But I saw it. I saw even the tears that did not fall, the sighs you held back, and the moments when all you wanted was for someone to tell you that you no longer had to be strong. Therefore today I say to you, it is time to change the way you carry these burdens. Change does not mean that every difficulty will disappear in one night, nor does it mean that you must immediately become an entirely different person. The first change may simply be admitting that you are tired. It may be a refusal you need to express, a conversation you have delayed, or a draining habit you must begin to leave behind. Sometimes, a turning point does not arrive with thunder across the heavens, but in the moment when you decide that you will no longer betray your own peace. I am not calling you to run away from responsibility. I am calling you to stop carrying responsibilities that never belonged to you. You cannot rescue everyone, repair every relationship, or control every outcome. Some things must be returned so that your hands may be free enough to receive what is new. I know that you once prayed for a sign that this painful season would not last forever. At times, you waited so long without seeing any clear change that you began to doubt whether your words had been heard. I want you to understand that silence does not mean you have been abandoned. Many profound changes are formed, first in places the natural eye cannot yet see. Just as the earth remains still before a new shoot appears, a process of restoration has also been taking place within you day by day. You have begun to recognize things you once tolerated. You have become more sensitive to words that weaken you. You are learning to distinguish sincere love from control disguised as concern. These realizations are evidence that you are no longer standing in the same place. I do not want you to believe that today is your final opportunity and that every good thing will leave if you are not quick enough. True love does not use fear to force you to open the door. Nevertheless, I need to remind you that every time you delay what you know is right, you extend the time you remain trapped within the same cycle that has exhausted you. A blessing is not taken away because you are 1 second late, but you may fail to recognize it if your eyes remain fixed only upon the door that has closed. Therefore, the choice I place before you today is simple. Are you willing to believe that your life can change direction? Are you willing to stop agreeing with the words that once convinced you that you were unworthy, inadequate, or too late to begin again? Heaven speaks about you with hope, but you must also learn to speak about yourself with kindness. Do not call yourself a failure merely because one plan did not succeed. Do not conclude that you are unworthy of love merely because one person failed to value you. Do not treat difficult seasons as proof that your future will resemble your past. What you experienced is part of your journey, but it has no authority to write the final sentence. You still possess the ability to choose, repair, learn, and continue. Every morning you awaken is a reminder that your story is still being written, and the new pages do not have to carry the same colors as the old ones. If you wish to express that you have heard this calling, you do not need to perform a ritual to prove it to me. You may say, "Amen" with your lips, but what matters more is that your life begins to reflect that agreement. A genuine amen may mean resting when your body needs rest. It may be the decision not to return to someone who continually harms you. It may mean reopening an application for an opportunity that once frightened you, calling someone who can help, or beginning the small task you have postponed for months. Faith does not exist only in words. Faith becomes alive when you take a step that agrees with the good thing for which you have been praying. A surprise may be moving toward you, but I want you to understand that the greatest gift does not always arrive as money, recognition, or a dramatic event that astonishes everyone. Sometimes, the greatest surprise is waking up and realizing that an old wound no longer controls your reactions. It may be the day when you hear the name of someone who hurt you and your heart no longer becomes turbulent. It may be an opportunity that leads you out of a limiting environment, an encounter that offers genuine support, or the strength to finally end what has been wearing you down. Whatever form it takes, what is good will not cause you to lose your dignity, drive you into chaos, or require you to betray the pure values placed within you. Therefore, my beloved child, remain within this stillness a little longer and listen to what something inside you is trying to say. You do not need to resolve your entire life in 20 minutes. You need only to recognize the next step. That step may be forgiving yourself, asking for help, reorganizing your time, caring for your health, or ceasing to pursue the approval of someone who never intended to see you. Take that small step with courage. Your destiny does not draw nearer merely because of how long you remain listening to a message. It draws nearer when your choices begin to align with the person you are being called to become. I am still here, not to pressure you through fear, but to hold your hand with tenderness. You have carried enough. Lay down what no longer belongs to you. Lift your head and walk toward the dawn. A new door does not open through panic. It opens when you believe, remain awake, and courageously say, "From this day forward, I will no longer abandon myself." You did not stop here by accident, because every quiet step you have taken has led you to the precise moment when a great transition is beginning to unfold. I want you to listen with peace, not with anxiety that you will lose something if you are delayed, but with the awareness of someone who has passed through enough long days to recognize when a new door is beginning to open. There are seasons in life when everything on the outside still appears the same, but in the hidden place, the order has changed. The things that once delayed, you begin to lose their power. The knots that once exhausted you slowly loosen, and a road that was previously concealed begins to appear more clearly. You may not yet see the complete form of what is coming, but the change began before you knew how to name it. Pay attention, my beloved child, because the movement taking place around you may not arrive with a loud sound. It may resemble an invisible shaking that unsettles what no longer belongs to your new journey. Certain relationships may become more distant. Certain plans may suddenly change, and things you once considered secure may no longer stand as firmly as before. Do not become afraid too quickly when you see this disturbance. Not everything that is shaken is a loss. Some things must be moved from their former position, so that you can recognize which foundation is truly dependable. Some doors need to close so that you will no longer continue walking in circles within a room that has become too narrow for your growth. What I am doing is not intended to confuse you, but to free you from limitations you have known for so long that you mistook them for destiny. I know there were times when you ignored an inner reminder, simply because you were afraid to hope again. You once waited for something good, and then had to face disappointment. You placed your trust in promises and received only silence. So now, whenever a new opportunity appears, you often tell yourself not to expect too much. I do not blame you for this caution. It was the way you tried to protect your heart after painful days. But do not allow an old experience to become a lock that imprisons your future. Wisdom helps you move slowly and observe carefully, while fear causes you to close yourself before truth has a chance to reveal itself. I am teaching you to distinguish between the two, so that you will neither move recklessly nor reject a gift, merely because it does not resemble anything you have known before. A reversal is taking shape, but do not understand it merely as a moment when those who once doubted you will be astonished. The deepest restoration is not found in their admission that you were right, but in the fact that you no longer require their recognition in order to continue. One day, they may see what I planted within you. Those who once underestimated you may witness you standing in a place they never believed you could reach. But that is not the highest purpose. I am not lifting you so that you may return and prove your worth to those who failed to understand you. I am leading you farther so that you may realize your worth never depended upon their eyes. When this truth becomes firmly established within you, every success that comes afterward will not turn into pride, but into a reminder that the silent years were not wasted. The blessing drawing near is not a reward for blind endurance, but the result of a process through which you were prepared by every small choice. Every time you rose after disappointment, you were building the strength to carry something greater. Every time you refused to retaliate, you were protecting your heart from becoming a dwelling place for bitterness. Every night, when you did not know what the future would bring, but still continued doing what was right. You were learning perseverance. Burdens were not sent to destroy you, but I do not want you to glorify suffering, as though you must be in pain to deserve love. What is precious is the way you grew through adversity, not the number of wounds you carried. You may feel that you have walked for too long through a silent season. No one saw the battles taking place within you. No one knew how many times you had to remind yourself that tomorrow was still worth reaching. There were nights when you stared into the darkness and wondered whether your prayers had been heard. There were mornings when you awoke exhausted, but continued caring for others, fulfilling your responsibilities and concealing your sadness so that no one would worry. I saw all of it. Yet, I do not remind you of these things so that you will remain trapped within painful memories. I remind you so that you may understand that your quiet perseverance formed within you the ability to stand firmly before what is new. You are no longer someone who easily loses direction merely because one door closes or one person turns away. Today may look like every other day, but the choices you make today will determine the spirit with which you enter this change. You do not need to search for mystical signs in every event, nor must you remain tense while waiting for something dramatic to happen. Pay attention to the practical things already placed before you. An idea you have repeatedly postponed, a conversation that needs to take place honestly, a habit that needs to change, or a boundary you know you must establish. True alignment is not merely the feeling that everything has suddenly become miraculous. It often begins when your thoughts, words, and actions all move toward what you believe is right. When you stop saying you desire peace while continuing to open the door to chaos, and when you stop praying for renewal while holding tightly to what is old, you begin making space for lasting transformation. What I am preparing ahead will not repeat the past exactly, because you are no longer the person you once were. You have learned to recognize words that are not supported by actions. You now understand that genuine care does not force you to live in anxiety, and a right opportunity does not demand that you exchange your dignity for it. You once believed every new beginning would end in the same pain, but that was only the echo of old experiences. When you enter what is new with wisdom, you will no longer choose in the same way. You will ask questions instead of believing too quickly, observe consistency instead of being carried away by promises, and listen to peace instead of chasing intense emotions. This maturity is what makes a different future possible. I want you to take a short time to gather the attention that has been scattered. Too many voices are trying to tell you who you should become, where you should go, and how quickly you must move so that you will not be left behind. But the path prepared for you cannot be recognized amid constant confusion. Step away for a moment from whatever is making your mind heavy, breathe more slowly, and honestly ask yourself what needs to change. The answer may not come like thunder. It may be only a gentle realization. You need rest. You need to complete what you started. You need to stop seeking approval, or you need to forgive yourself. Do not underestimate these small realizations. A great change in direction often begins with a decision. No one else can see, my beloved child. The great thing about to be discovered is not only an outward opportunity, but also the strength within you that has long been concealed beneath doubt. You once believed you had to become someone else in order to enter a better future. But I want you to understand that you do not need to deny your gentle nature. in order to become strong. You do not need to become cold to be respected, nor speak loudly in order to have a voice. What needs to change is not the light within you, but the way you protect and use that light. When you know how to establish boundaries, leave at the right time, and stop explaining yourself endlessly to those who intentionally misunderstand, you will discover that you can be stronger without becoming harsh. Therefore, continue moving without allowing impatience to guide you. What belongs to you does not need to be held through panic. If an opportunity is genuinely right, it will withstand careful examination. If someone is sincere, they will respect the time you need to build trust. If a path is right, it will increasingly produce clarity rather than draw you deeper into confusion. I do not want you to miss what is good, but neither do I want you to accept everything, merely because someone calls it a blessing. Let peace, character, and fruit become your standard. What comes from light will not require you to betray yourself in order to receive it. Now, trust that this change does not require you to become perfect before stepping into it. You need only to be willing to learn, willing to release what has reached its end, and willing to act when truth becomes clear. Do not return to old cycles merely because they are familiar. Do not choose the narrow room simply because you already know how to live within it. I am leading you toward a wider place where old lessons will no longer repeat themselves in the same form. What lies ahead will carry a different rhythm. Less confusion and greater clarity, less chasing and more companionship, less proving and more peace. Keep these words within your heart as the day continues. You were not led here so that you could remain forever within a limited version of yourself. The things that once broke you do not possess the authority to write the ending. The long nights taught you to recognize light, but you do not need to remain in darkness to prove that you are strong. A new season is drawing near, and what I need from you is not fear, but awareness, not haste, but the courage to move at the right time. Lift your head, preserve your peace, and prepare through honest choices. What is coming will not resemble the past, because you have been renewed to enter it with a clear heart, a steady mind, and hands prepared to preserve the good things being entrusted to you. Do not hurry away, my beloved child, because the doors that once closed before you were not final endings, but necessary redirections, leading you toward the place prepared for you. You believed you were being delayed, left behind, or rejected, while others continued moving forward. There were days when you looked around and wondered why, despite all your effort, you still stood before silent walls. Yet what you called delay, I used as time to build a foundation. While you believed nothing was moving, your endurance was being strengthened. Your discernment was being formed, and unsuitable things were gradually being removed from your path. You were not being punished or placed in a meaningless place. You were being repositioned so that when the right door opened, you would no longer enter with the immaturity of former days, but with the steadiness produced through seasons of waiting. Those who once tried to hinder you may have believed they were slowing your journey. They thought that one rejection, one misunderstanding, or one stolen opportunity would cause you to lose your direction. But they did not know that I could transform every obstacle into a detour that protected you from what did not belong to you. There are roads that, had you entered them too early, would have exhausted you. There are relationships that, had they continued, would have caused you to forget your own worth. There are invitations that appear beautiful outwardly, while concealing a price too great to pay. Therefore, some doors had to close, not because you were unworthy, but because you were being protected from building your future upon an unstable foundation. One day you will look back and feel grateful for the things you once prayed for but did not receive. The blessing prepared for you has not lost its way. It has quietly accompanied your journey, but your heart needed to become wide enough to receive it without turning it into another burden. If something good came while fear was still controlling you, you might destroy it with your own hands, because you would continually suspect that it was about to disappear. If abundance arrived before you learned how to preserve it, you might quickly consume it in an attempt to fill temporary emptiness. If a sincere person entered while you still viewed every relationship through wounded eyes, you might push them away because you expected history to repeat itself. Therefore, I was not preparing only the gift, I was preparing you. Now you have passed through enough to understand that what is precious must be held with humility, awareness, and responsibility. You may feel an unusual prompting during these days, as though something were drawing near that you cannot yet name. Sometimes you awaken with the feeling that a new chapter is opening. Sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary day, you suddenly feel compelled to reconsider your decisions, relationships, and current direction. Do not quickly assume that it is merely your imagination. Transformation often begins very gently within before it becomes visible in your circumstances. I am helping you recognize what you can no longer continue accepting, which habits need to change, and which places you have remained in for too long, simply because you feared beginning again. This prompting has not come to make you panic. It has come to awaken you so that you will no longer live automatically, but begin choosing each step with clarity. However, in order to cross into the new season, you must release the fear that has held you back for too long. You cannot desire freedom while continuing to nurture the belief that every good thing will end in pain. You cannot pray for a new beginning while reminding yourself each day of all the times you failed. Fear may tell you that you are not capable enough, that it is too late to change, or that your destiny consists only of missed opportunities. But fear has no authority to write the next chapter. It merely repeats what happened before, in order to make you believe the future cannot be different. I want you to recognize that the past may teach you, but it is not permitted to rule you. What once happened is not proof that it must always happen. Release also the guilt you have carried, because of decisions you made before you possessed enough understanding. There were times when you chose incorrectly, trusted the wrong person, or remained for too long in an unsuitable place. But you cannot return and change the person you were yesterday. What you can do is use today's wisdom so that you do not repeat what caused you pain. Regret is useful only when it leads you toward change. When it continually condemns you, it becomes a prison. I am not calling you into the new season with your head lowered in shame. I am calling you to stand upright, acknowledge the lesson, repair what can be repaired, and continue with a purer heart. You do not need to be perfect to deserve another opportunity. What is coming may astonish you, not only because it is better than you expected, but because it arrives through a road you never considered. I know you often imagined that the answer had to come in a particular form, through a particular person, and at the exact time you had chosen. Yet sometimes rescue comes through a door you once considered too small. An opportunity may begin through an ordinary conversation, a sudden idea, an introduction, or a seemingly insignificant decision. Therefore, remain alert to simple things. Do not allow your expectation of a great sign to cause you to overlook the small seed being placed into your hand. Great things do not always appear in their complete form. They arrive as beginnings that must be nurtured through perseverance. If you feel that these words could support someone who is suffering silently, you may share them with sincere love. But do not treat commenting, liking, or subscribing as conditions for receiving favor. Love from the realm of light cannot be purchased through clicks, and blessings are not withheld merely because you did not perform an action on a screen. Do such things when you genuinely desire another person to find hope, not because you fear that you will miss something good. The deepest agreement is not found in an icon you press, but in the way you live after hearing this reminder. Will you dare to leave what exhausts you? Will you begin the work you have delayed? Will you keep the promise you made to yourself and treat those around you with greater kindness? This is how a message becomes a turning point. At the threshold of the new season, what is waiting requires more than words from you. It requires a clear decision. Will you continue living as though you are always a victim of circumstances, or will you begin taking responsibility for each step? Will you wait forever for the feeling of readiness, or will you do what is right, even while part of you still trembles? You do not need to know how the entire journey will unfold. I ask only that you do not turn away from the next step that has become clear. It may be a call that must be made, an application that must be submitted, a plan that must begin, a boundary that must be established, or someone you need to forgive so that your own heart may become lighter. A breakthrough does not come only through what happens to you. It also comes through what you courageously do after awakening, my beloved child. Something is truly changing today, but first, it is changing the way you see yourself. You are no longer someone who only waits for another person to arrive and rescue you. You are becoming someone who listens, considers, and cooperates with the opportunities being offered. The seriousness you feel within is not a threat, but the recognition that the season of continual delay is beginning to close. What you have waited for is drawing near, but you must meet it with a heart that is no longer chained by doubt. Take a deep breath, release the worst predictions, and walk forward in peace. You will soon understand why many things once had to depart from your plans. They did not destroy you. They redirected you from a narrow road toward a wider place. I am here, walking with you through every step, and when the moment unfolds, you will recognize that not one tear, one season of waiting, or one closed door was meaningless.